Watching television in America in the 1980s was different. There was no streaming, no on-demand, no binge-watching entire seasons in one night. You watched what was on when it was on, or you missed it. The television was a piece of furniture, heavy, wood-paneled, sitting in the living room like a shrine. Families gathered around it. Everyone watched the same shows at the same time because there was no other choice. The 1980s were peak appointment television. The decade when the big three networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, controlled nearly everything Americans watched. But it was also when cable television exploded, when MTV launched, and when the VCR let you record shows for the first time. This was the last era when the entire country watched the same thing at the same time, before technology fractured everything into infinite choice. If you value understanding how culture shapes generations, subscribe to follow along for more stories like this. Now, let's walk through what watching TV was actually like in America in the 1980s. The television itself. Before flat screens, before plasma or LED, there was the cathode ray tube, the CRT. The CRT television was thick, deep, heavy. A 25-inch TV could weigh 100 pounds. Moving it required two people and a plan. The screen was convex, slightly curved outward. If you touched it, you could feel static electricity crackle against your fingertips. Most families had one TV. It sat in the living room. The TV was often built into a wooden console cabinet, making it look like furniture. Wood paneling, fake wood grain, the TV as decor. Changing the channel meant physical effort. Early in the 1980s, many TV sets still had manual dials. Two dials sat on the front of the set, one for VHF, channels 2 through 13, and one for UHF, channels 14 through 83. Turning the dial produced a heavy mechanical chunk sound. Each turn clicked into place. You felt the resistance, the remote control. In the early 1980s, remote controls were rare. Some were wired, with a long cable stretching from the TV to the couch. Others were wireless but massive beige bricks with only a handful of buttons. By the mid-1980s, wireless remotes became standard. Suddenly, you could flip through channels without getting up. Channel surfing became a thing, and parents hated it. The antenna. If you did not have cable, you had an antenna. Rabbit ears sat on top of the TV, two metal rods sticking up in a V shape. Adjusting them was an art form. One person stood behind the set, slowly rotating the antenna. Another person sat on the couch, shouting instructions. Stop, no, back, a little more, there, don't move. To improve reception, people wrapped aluminum foil around the tips of the antenna. Reception was unpredictable. On some channels, the picture was clear. On others, it was snowy and filled with static. Sometimes the image would roll vertically, flipping over and over until you adjusted the vertical hold knob on the TV. First, let's talk about what was actually on. In 1980, three networks dominated: ABC, CBS, and NBC. These were the big three. They controlled primetime. They controlled the news. They controlled what America watched. If a show aired on one of these networks at 8 p.m. on a Thursday, millions of people watched it at exactly the same time. Fox launched in 1986, but it only aired a few nights a week. It positioned itself as the edgy alternative. Its signature shows included Married with Children, 21 Jump Street, and The Tracy Ullman Show, which featured early animated shorts called The Simpsons. Cable television exploded in the 1980s. At the start of the decade, cable was for rural areas with bad reception. By the end, it was in suburbs everywhere. MTV launched in 1981. CNN launched in 1980, bringing 24-hour news for the first time. Nickelodeon became the first channel just for kids, with green slime and shows like You Can't Do That on television. HBO, Showtime, and Cinemax brought movies into homes without commercials, but you had to pay extra. Cable was a luxury. The TV Guide. This small, digest-sized magazine was essential. It arrived every Thursday. Inside was a grid showing every program on every channel for the entire week. You would sit down with a pen and circle the shows you wanted to watch. The TV Guide was the Bible of television. Appointment viewing meant you had to be home at a specific time to watch a specific show. If Cheers aired Thursday at 9 p.m., you watched it Thursday at 9 p.m. or you missed it. There were no repeats until summer. If you missed an episode, you missed it. This created a shared cultural experience. Everyone watched the same things at the same time. The next day, everyone talked about it. TV was a communal event. Now, the VCR changed everything. The video cassette recorder let you record shows. For the first time, you could time shift. If you were going to be out Thursday night, you could program your VCR to record Cheers while you were gone. Programming a VCR was notoriously difficult. You had to set the date, the time, the channel, the start time, the stop time. Most people could never figure out how to set the clock on their VCR. The flashing 12 o'clock became a cultural joke. But if you could figure it out, the VCR was revolutionary. You could build a library of recorded shows. You could skip commercials by fast-forwarding. You could pause live TV. Video cassette recorders also meant renting movies. Blockbuster opened in 1985. Local video rental stores were everywhere. Friday nights meant driving to the video store, walking the aisles, looking for something to rent. New releases were often out of stock, and you had to rewind the tape before returning it. Please rewind. Then there were the rituals of watching. Saturday morning cartoons were sacred. From 7 a.m. to noon, the networks aired nothing but cartoons. He-Man, Transformers, The Smurfs, G.I. Joe. Kids would wake up early, pour a bowl of sugary cereal, and sit inches from the TV. Once noon hit, cartoons ended. Very special episodes were a staple of sitcoms in the 1980s. Different Strokes, The Facts of Life, Family Ties. These were comedies, but occasionally they would tackle a serious issue like drugs, kidnapping, or drunk driving. The laugh track would disappear, and the tone would shift. Late-night television meant Johnny Carson or David Letterman. Carson was the king, smooth and traditional. Letterman was weird and ironic with stupid pet tricks and dropping things off buildings. You were either a Carson person or a Letterman person. Commercials were everywhere. There was no skipping them. Commercials were part of the experience. You would watch the same ads over and over. Where's the beef? I've fallen and I can't get up. Commercials became part of the culture. Some major moments defined TV in the 1980s. In 1980, the question of who shot JR on Dallas became a global obsession. 83 million people tuned in to find out. That level of shared viewership is almost impossible today. The final episode of MASH in 1983 drew 106 million viewers, the most watched TV episode in American history. Families gathered to watch it together. The 1988 writer's strike crippled television. It lasted 154 days. Scripted shows disappeared. To fill the gap, networks experimented with unscripted content. This led directly to the birth of reality TV. Cops premiered in 1989. Miniseries were huge in the 1980s. The Winds of War, The Thornbirds, North and South. These were week-long events. Families would watch every night. What made watching TV in the 1980s different was the lack of control. You could not pause. You could not rewind unless you recorded it. You could not choose what to watch from a library of thousands of options. You watched what was on, when it was on. You adjusted the antenna. You flipped through channels manually. You waded through commercials. You planned your week around TV schedules. But that lack of control created something else. It created shared experience. Everyone watched the same things. Everyone talked about the same shows. TV was a communal ritual, not an isolated, personalized activity. For people who watched TIFF in the 1980s, the memories are specific. The static on UHF channels, the K chunk of the dial, the flashing 12 o'clock on the VCR, wrapping the antenna in foil, fighting over the remote, racing home to catch your favorite show, waiting all week for Saturday morning cartoons. The 1980s were the last decade of true appointment television. The last time everyone watched the same thing at the same time. Before streaming, before on-demand, before infinite choice, just a heavy television in the living room, a handful of channels, and the whole country tuning in together.